Hey, Keller Williams, Greater Cleveland. My name is Scott Phillips here. I work as our CEO, and today I want to give you guys a quick video about Earnest Money. Now, full disclosure, I am not the managing broker of our company. John Ludwig is, and if you ever have an intense question, be sure to email Ludwig, that's Ludwick, at kw.com, or call 216-839-5500, our main line, and ask to be transferred to our managing broker, John Ludwig, and he'll answer all your detailed questions. But today, I'm going to help you with some of the really basic questions that we get all the time from our agents that are working with buyers and have questions about earnest money. So let's start off. If you're working with a buyer and the word earnest money comes up, let's talk about what that really is. From the sake of the buyer's agent, earnest money is just money deposited with a title company most of the time that binds the contract together. So what you'll see is on page 1 of our purchase agreement is a section that says how much earnest money is being deposited with the escrow institution. 95% of the time, the escrow institution is our title and escrow company, not the brokerage. There are very rare circumstances where earnest money should be made out to Keller Williams, but that's very rare anymore. 95% of the time, earnest money is either wired or taken in the form of a check certified to directly to the title institution. Now, the question becomes, well, how do I get it to the title company? What if my buyer's out of town and then they needed to get us certified money and it took them a while to do that? That's okay. First off, you can always wire money no matter where you are. So getting wiring instructions from your title company is actually not that complicated to do. You just need to ask them for those and they'll get them for you. The second thing you can do is get those certified funds, and if you use Greater Cleveland Title, that is our title company that we're affiliated with here at Keller Williams Greater Cleveland, that we tend to work with a lot. If you can get that earnest money to this office, we can typically get it upstairs on the 3rd floor to them and kind of make sure that that gets to the right place at the right time. All you need to do is put the address of the property in the memo line when using Greater Cleveland Title. So that's one way to do it. If your clients aren't interested in wiring money or they're not savvy enough to, we can definitely help you get the cashier's check up to Greater Cleveland Title since they're in our building. One of the most important things I can tell you about earnest money, get it in as soon as possible. Your contract typically is talking about a 4-day wait period from the point of acceptance to get it in, but I would tell you this, almost every lawsuit that we deal with at the brokerage level has to do with earnest money not being collected, or we were going to collect it, but then the deal fell apart, so the buyer never sent it, and so now the money wasn't collected, but we thought it was going to be. Almost all the time we get sued, it's typically because earnest money wasn't collected. So get it in as quickly as possible to avoid any of those conflicts happening. It's one of the most important things I can tell you. So why do we need earnest money so fast, Scott? Why is this something that, that can't just wait until the inspections are over? What if they tell me they're going to send it to me and we still haven't done the inspection yet, or there's a home sale contingency, we'll get it in at that time? Well, here's the reason why. Most people don't realize this, so I want to be the one to tell you. If a deal falls apart, the buyer does not always get the earnest money back. That's a classic misnomer. Over time, trends are that the buyer gets the earnest money back in Ohio. Usually if 2 years have passed and no one has laid claim to the earnest money, typically the law will release that to the buyer. However, most of the time these disputes happen way in advance of 2 years, especially if you're talking about big money. So if a deal falls apart and the seller has any basis for claim that they think that, hey, you know what, I kind of think I deserve this earnest money, or a part of the earnest money, at a minimum for settlement, and that money was never collected, then the seller might be looking to collect money that's not present, and that could be a major proof of a license law violation by you, the buyer's agent, for not collecting that money out front like you said you did. So that one's incredibly important. Even if there's a contingency on there, and even if they have the right to walk away and then they do, it doesn't necessarily mean that the seller is going to sign the mutual release that allows the buyer to take that money with them out of escrow. And if you never collected it in the first place, then you're going to get caught in the middle of a license law violation. So you always have to turn it in, even if it seems like the buyer is going to be let out of it. Secondly, if earnest money is not collected, and let's say the seller gets into multiple offers and they say, hey, we want to see proof that earnest money was collected, verification from the title company that they have it, and you can't get it, you can actually lose the sale. I've seen it before where the non-collection of earnest money was actually the reason that a seller released the buyer from a contract and went ahead and wrote a contract with a new buyer, effectively costing our existing buyer a sale. And that was obviously a really big deal and a really big violation that we had to work through. So understand that if you don't collect earnest money on time, you can technically lose the home and be out of contract. It's not a black and white situation, but you could. And then the third one, and this one's just, to your own understanding, but Sometimes if we don't collect earnest money, it actually impacts our commission and the proceeds of the sale. So if you didn't collect earnest money, but you said you did, what happens is the title company sometimes can go through the whole closing disclosure and write it all out as though they collected their earnest money because you said you did in the contract, but in fact you haven't. It can mess up closing and delay the process of closing when they catch it at the last second, and the whole situation gets delayed, including your commission, the buyer moving into the house, and so on and so forth. So ensuring that you've got that earnest money in is really, really important because it can actually impact the closing of the home. So let's review. We want to make sure that we get it in as soon as possible. That's the most important thing I can tell you. If you are going to use Greater Cleveland Title because your client wants to use a cashier's check, you can even bring it to this office. Make sure you put the memo line or the address of the property in the memo line, I should say, and we'll get it up to Greater Cleveland Title for you if your clients can't do a wire. Remember that if a deal falls apart, earnest money does not necessarily go back to the buyer, even if it seems like everything in the contract says that it should. The seller still needs to sign off, which means you have to have that money in there in the first place. You could get caught in a license law violation. Understand that if earnest money is not collected at any point, that you could be out of contract, or even if it's collected late, you could be considered out of contract and lose the sale to a competing offer. And then if you never collected it, or you said you collected it and you never did, it could mess up your closing disbursement timing and the actual amount on the closing disclosure. And we want to make sure we don't cause those kinds of problems for our clients. So I hope that these earnest money points in working with buyers were helpful for you. Remember again that if you have any really detailed questions on earnest money, always reach out to our managing broker by calling 216-839-5500. Ask to be connected to our broker, that's John Ludwig, or you may email Ludwig, Ludwick, at kw.com. And anyone in the team is always happy to help. Make sure that you get that stuff collected, though, as soon as possible. Good luck, everyone.